Ladies and gentlemen, you ever notice how some people treat respect like it's optional? Like it's the sprinkles on the ice cream, not the actual ice cream. Here's the thing. Respect isn't a bonus. It's the baseline. And when someone skips it, you don't have to throw a fit, but you do need to respond. Today, I'll give you 5 ways to handle people who don't respect you without losing your cool, your confidence, or your voice. When it comes to respect, the first thing you have to understand is this. People will meet you at the level you set for yourself. And if you don't set the standard, they will. And trust me, their standard will always be lower than yours. Think about it. When you walk into a room, whether you realize it or not, you're already telling people how they can treat you. It's in the way you stand, in the way you talk, in what you laugh off, and in what you let slide. If someone makes a snide remark and you brush it off without saying a word, you just told them that's okay. You didn't mean to, but you did. You taught them that it's free to cross that line. We do this without thinking. Someone interrupts us mid-sentence, and instead of finishing our thought, we let them take over the conversation. Someone gives us a nickname we hate, and we force a laugh so we don't make it awkward. Someone takes credit for our work, and we tell ourselves, it's fine, and at least the job got done. No, it's not fine, and every time we let it slide, we reinforce that this is the way they can treat us.
I'm not telling you to become the respect police and bark at everyone who steps out of line. I'm telling you to quietly, consistently set the tone. You do it by what you respond to and what you ignore. You do it by what you allow to happen twice. The first time someone crosses a line, it might be a misunderstanding. The second time, it's a pattern, and patterns are taught.
Here's the problem. Most people think that if they're nice enough, patient enough, and understanding enough, the other person will get the hint. They won't. Hints are for movie plots and birthday surprises, not for respect. People need clarity, and clarity doesn't always sound like a speech. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, I wasn't done talking, or actually, that's not something I'm okay with. That's not aggression, that's maintenance. When you set a standard, you're not telling someone they're a bad person. You're telling them how to have a relationship with you. Big difference. It's like giving someone the instructions to your house. If you say, come in through the front door and they keep climbing through the window, eventually you stop inviting them over. Same thing here. And yes, some people will be surprised when you start doing this, especially if you've been letting things slide for years. You might even feel guilty. That's normal. But let me tell you what's worse than feeling guilty. Living your whole life feeling invisible in your own relationships. Feeling like people hear your voice, but not your boundaries. That slow erosion of self-respect eats away at you far more than a moment of discomfort ever will. Setting the standard is not about being louder. It's about being clear. You don't need to explain yourself into the ground. You don't need to win them over. You just need to decide what's acceptable for you and then match your actions to that decision. Consistency is what makes the standard real. It's like training a dog. If you say no jumping but laugh and pet them when they jump on you, you're teaching the exact opposite of what you want. Humans aren't much different. If your words and your actions aren't aligned, people will follow your actions every time. And here's the beauty of it. When you raise your standard, the people who truly respect you will rise to meet it. They'll adjust. They'll learn. They'll even appreciate it because now they know exactly where they stand with you. And the ones who don't want to meet it, they'll drift away. That's not a loss. That's a filter. So don't wait for someone else to draw the line for you. Don't wait until you're exhausted and bitter. Decide now. Show people in every conversation, in every small interaction, that you value yourself enough to protect your space. And you don't have to say it with your chest out and your fists clenched. You just have to mean it. Because the truth is, you can't control who respects you, but you can control what you allow. And the standard you set becomes the respect you get. Now, once you've set the standard, the next move is knowing how to hold it. When someone pushes back, this is where most people lose it. Because the moment we feel disrespected, our instincts want to go into one of 2 modes. Either we snap back or we shut down. And neither of those actually gets us what we want. See, reacting is easy. Someone rolls their eyes at you and you roll yours harder. Someone raises their voice and you crank yours up 2 notches. It feels good in the moment, like you're matching their energy. But here's the problem. Now you're letting their behavior dictate yours. You've handed them the remote control to your emotions, and they're flipping through channels like it's their TV. Responding is different. Responding is when you slow down just enough to choose your next move instead of letting it be chosen for you. It's the difference between a spark that fizzles out and a spark that burns the whole house down. You've seen it before, maybe at work, maybe at home. Someone says something sharp and the other person doesn't fire back. They just pause, take a breath, and then answer in a calm, steady tone. It's not weakness, it's power under control, and it changes the whole temperature of the room. Because here's the truth. When someone disrespects you, they're often trying to get a reaction. They want you flustered, defensive, or off balance. The moment you match their chaos, you've confirmed they can pull you into their storm. But when you respond, instead of react, you stay in your own weather. You set the climate. This doesn't mean you're pretending it didn't happen. It means you're deciding how to address it in a way that serves you. You can still call it out. You can still set a boundary, but you're doing it from a place of clarity, not from the heat of the moment. One way to practice this is by controlling two things, your words and your tone. People tend to remember how you say something more than the exact words you used. If your tone spikes, they stop hearing your point and start defending themselves against your delivery. But when your tone stays even, your words land harder. It's like the difference between a door slammed shut and a door quietly locked. Both keep someone out, but one makes them want to kick it open, while the other just makes them walk away. And I know some of you are thinking, but if I don't show how angry I am, they won't take me seriously. That's not true. People take you seriously when your actions match your words and when you can hold your ground without losing your center. Andrew might make you loud, but composure makes you heard. Here's the other benefit. When you respond instead of react, you can actually think about the outcome you want. If your goal is to shut the disrespect down, exploding in the moment might feel satisfying, but it usually escalates the situation. Responding gives you the space to choose the move that actually works. Sometimes that means addressing it right then. Other times it means stepping away and coming back to it later when emotions aren't so raw. There's a line I like to remember. You can't control the waves, but you can control how you surf them. People are going to throw disrespect your way. It's not about dodging every wave. It's about keeping your balance when it hits. So the next time someone pushes your buttons, don't give them the satisfaction of watching you push back on impulse. Pause, breathe, lower your voice instead of raising it. Ask a question instead of making a threat. Let them wonder why they can't seem to rattle you. That's how you hold the standard without losing yourself. Because at the end of the day, the loudest voice in the room isn't always the strongest. It's the one that stays calm when everyone else is losing their head. Once you've learned to respond instead of react, you've got to make sure there are actual boundaries in place. And let me say this right up front. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about showing people where the safe lane is. They're not walls, they're guardrails. A wall says stay away. A guardrail says here's how to stay on the road with me. The reason so many people get walked over isn't because they're bad at speaking up. It's because they think a boundary is just something you say once. But boundaries are only as strong as your willingness to enforce them every single time. Picture it like this. You're driving and you see a sign that says speed limit 55. You might slow down or you might not. But if you pass a cop holding a radar gun, suddenly you're doing 44 on the dot. Why? Because the rule isn't just on a sign, it's being enforced. People treat your boundaries the same way. But here's where it gets tricky. The first time you put a boundary in place, especially with someone who's used to crossing it, they're going to test it. They're going to push. They're going to joke. They're going to act like it's not a big deal. And if you bend even a little, you just taught them the guardrail is more like a suggestion. I know it's uncomfortable. I know part of you wants to soften it so you don't seem mean or too much. But the truth is, people who respect you will never be offended by your boundaries. The only people who get upset when you set them are the ones who benefited from you not having them. Now, a boundary doesn't have to be delivered like a threat. It can be direct without being cold. It can be firm without being sharp. Let's say a coworker keeps dropping last-minute work on your desk and expecting you to handle it. You could say, I can't take this on right now. If you need help, you'll need to check with me earlier in the day. No drama, no big emotional speech. just a clear guardrail. And here's the thing, boundaries protect relationships. That sounds backward to some people, but it's true. Without them, resentment builds. If you start silently keeping score, waiting for the moment the other person finally realizes how much they've been taking from you, but that moment doesn't come because you never told them where the line was. A relationship without boundaries isn't kindness. It's a slow leak. A good boundary does two things. It protects you and it gives the other person a choice. You're saying, here's what I can do. Here's what I won't do. Then it's up to them to decide if they can work within that. Some will, some won't. Either way, you've protected your lane. And boundaries aren't just about what you won't accept. They're also about what you need. Maybe it's please don't call me after 9 p.m. unless it's urgent or I need you to give me notice before showing up at my place. You're not being controlling. You're giving a map for how to have a healthy connection with you. The real challenge isn't setting boundaries with strangers or acquaintances. It's holding them with the people closest to you. Family, friends, partners. They're the ones who will test you the hardest because they've known you the longest. And when you start changing the rules, they'll feel it. They might even tell you you're different. But that's the point. You're growing. And remember, you don't owe long explanations for your boundaries. The longer you explain, the more it can sound like you're asking permission. A short, clear statement is enough. You're not negotiating your worth. You're stating the terms of how you'll be treated. When you treat your boundaries like guardrails, you stop driving through life, swerving to avoid crashes. You move forward with confidence, knowing you've given people the tools to stay in your lane without hitting you. And if they still choose to crash into you, after that, you'll know exactly what to do next. Because boundaries don't just keep you safe, they keep you free. One of the biggest mistakes people make when dealing with disrespect is going straight after the person instead of the behavior. The second you make it about who they are, you've turned it into a personal attack, and people don't respond well to those. The moment someone feels labeled, they stop listening to you and start defending themselves. When you call out the behavior instead, you're putting the spotlight exactly where it belongs. You're saying this thing you just did, that's not okay. You're not saying you're a terrible human being. That difference matters because people can change a behavior, but the moment they feel like you're attacking their identity, it's fight or flight. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone cuts you off. If you say, "You're so rude," the person's guard goes up. Now, it's not about the interruption. It's about defending themselves against the rude label. But if you say, "Hold on, I wasn't finished yet," you're calling attention to the specific action, not the person's character. It's harder to argue with that. Addressing the behavior also keeps you from overgeneralizing. There's a huge difference between "you never respect me" and "when you speak over me." It makes it hard to finish my point. The first one paints the whole person with a broad brush. The second one puts a frame around a single moment. And moments are easier to talk about and fix than someone's entire personality. Another reason this works is because people often don't realize how their actions land. What feels obviously disrespectful to you might just be a blind spot for them. If you make it about their entire character, you close the door for them to adjust. If you make it about a specific action, you give them a way back. Now, this doesn't mean you sugarcoat things or dance around the truth. You can still be direct. In fact, being direct is what makes this effective. You're holding someone accountable without making it personal. You're giving them a chance to hear you instead of just hearing their own defense. And here's the kicker. This approach actually makes it easier for you to stay calm. When you focus on the behavior, you're not spiraling into "this person is always like this," or "they're just out to get me." You're staying in the present moment, dealing with what's in front of you. That keeps the conversation cleaner and way less emotional. Think about how this plays out in personal relationships. If your partner leaves dirty dishes in the sink, saying "you're so lazy" is going to cause a fight. Saying, "When you leave the dishes, I feel like I'm the only one cleaning up," keeps it about the action and the effect, not the person's worth. Same problem, but now you've got a shot at solving it instead of just trading insults. In the workplace, it's the same story. If a coworker misses a deadline, you could say, you're unreliable. But that turns the whole conversation into an argument about whether they're a good employee. If you say when the deadline is missed, it puts the whole team behind. Now you're talking about the impact. And the focus is on the fix, not the fight. The people who are worth keeping in your life will usually respond to this kind of feedback. They'll get it. They might not love hearing it in the moment, but they'll respect that you're calling out the action without trying to tear them down. And if they don't respond well, if they double down, deflect, or try to turn it back on you, then you've learned something about whether they can handle accountability at all. By calling out behavior instead of attacking the person, you keep the door open for change while still making it crystal clear that disrespect won't slide. It's not about letting people off the hook. It's about making sure the conversation stays in a place where a solution is actually possible. Because if you want to change how someone treats you, the fastest way to lose your shot is to make it about who they are instead of what they did. The last thing you've got to understand about dealing with people who don't respect you is this: not everyone deserves your energy. And I know that sounds obvious, but if you're honest with yourself, you probably spend way too much time trying to convince the wrong people to treat you right. It's human nature. We want to be liked. We want people to understand our side. We want fairness. So when someone keeps crossing the line, we think if I just explain it better, if I just give them another chance, maybe they'll get it. But some people aren't confused. They understand you just fine. They just don't care enough to change. Here's the truth. Your time, your attention, your emotional bandwidth, those are limited resources. You don't have an endless supply. Every moment you spend chasing respect from someone who refuses to give it is a moment you've taken away from the people who actually value you. And the more you pour into the wrong person, the less you have left for the right ones. You've probably heard the saying, don't let someone live in your head rent-free. I take a step further. Don't let them live in your life rent-free. Not everyone gets a front row seat. Some people belong in the balcony, and some people, they don't even get a ticket. Now, that doesn't mean you cut people off at the first sign of conflict. Relationships take work. Misunderstandings happen. People can grow, but there's a big difference between working through a rough patch with someone who's trying and carrying dead weight for someone who's not. One way to figure out who gets your energy is to watch what happens after you set a boundary. Do they adjust? Do they at least try? Or do they keep doing the same thing just with new excuses? If it's the second one, you've got your answer. And it's not just about protecting your peace. It's about protecting your identity. When you keep giving time and attention to someone who consistently disrespects you, you start shrinking yourself to fit the space they leave you. You laugh off things that hurt. You lower your standards so they can meet them. You start telling yourself this is just how they are, when really, it's just how you've decided to live around them. I've had people tell me, but if I stop engaging with them, they'll think they won. And here's what I say to that. You don't measure winning by what they think. You measure it by how much better your life gets when they no longer have access to it. Walking away from someone who disrespects you isn't losing. It's cutting your losses. And sometimes that decision isn't dramatic. It's not a big speech or a slam door. Sometimes it's just slowly giving less and less of yourself to the wrong people and more to the right ones. It's not revenge. It's redistribution. When you start doing this, something amazing happens. The people who truly value you get more of you. Your relationships feel lighter, more mutual, more energizing. You stop feeling like you have to constantly prove yourself. You stop rehearsing arguments in your head. You start showing up as your full self instead of a watered-down version designed to survive around disrespect. And yes, it can be lonely at first. When you stop entertaining certain people, there will be empty seats in your life. But those empty seats aren't failures. They're invitations. They're space for better relationships to show up. So ask yourself, who gets my best energy? Who gets my patience, my attention, my time? And if the answer is someone who never gives those things back, it might be time to move them to the balcony or outside the building altogether. Because the more you give your energy to the right people, the less you have to worry about how to handle the wrong ones. So here's the bottom line. Respect isn't something you beg for, chase after, or try to squeeze out of someone who's unwilling to give it. It's something you set, protect, and live by. You set the standard so people know where the line is. You respond instead of react, so you stay in control. You put guardrails in place so your relationships stay healthy. You call out the behavior, not the person, so change is possible. And you decide who gets your energy, so you're not wasting yourself on people who've already shown you they can't handle it. Handling people who don't respect you isn't about being louder, meaner, or tougher. It's about being consistent, clear, and confident in the value you bring. And once you start living that way, you'll realize something powerful. You don't have to fight for respect when you stop giving your presence to people who can't give it back. Because the moment you decide what you're worth, the world starts treating you accordingly.